So they've been trying for years to get mandatory vaccinations on the agenda. They've been trying for years to bully and propaganda parents into vaccinating their kids against their kids' best interests. They've tried as hard as they can to silence and dilute any alternative information that makes parents question vaccines. And they've also tried as hard as they can to keep the injuries, the deaths, and the side effects out of the public domain. Certainly, they don't tell young parents or young to-be parents about any of these things unless you ask or do your own research. Now, here's the funny one. Today's story. Measles outbreak could see unvaccinated kids excluded from school. Now, as much as I don't think kids going to school is necessarily a good thing anyway, not against education, I'm against programming, which is what the mainstream media does. This, to me, is a stalking horse for mandatory vaccinations to attend school. Simple as that. If they can try and get public opinion to believe that these outbreaks are caused because of unvaccinated children, they're going to get more and more support for imposing mandatory vaccinations for school. Now, this is clearly completely by design. The first question that should be asked is, are the kids getting sick, vaccinated kids or unvaccinated kids? Because if it's all the vaccinated kids getting sick, kind of diffuses your argument, doesn't it? That it's the unvaccinated causing the problem. Because why is your vaccine not working then, mate? How can you blame the unvaccinated kids if your vaccinated kids are ill? That doesn't make any sense. And clearly, it's not the unvaccinated kids getting sick, because if it was, that would be your headline. That would be your bombshell. That would be your fear and propaganda in overdrive to scare parents of unvaccinated children or parents who are maybe on the fence as to what to do. That would be the headline you'd lead with. 90% of kids with measles in school outbreak are unvaccinated. Not the headline though, is it? Because that's not the reality. The reality is actually probably far, far from that. That's why, as we've seen, they won't do a health study on overall health of vaccinated kids versus unvaccinated kids, because the outcome of that study will not land on the side they want it to. Because if it did, and if the evidence and if the science, the settled science was on their side, they'd do the study. They'd publish the study. They'd shout it from the rooftops, and they would completely destroy the anti-vax argument. But they won't do that, because they can't do that, because the science and the facts are not on the side of the pro-vaccine argument. They're not on the side of the pro-vaccine pharmaceutical companies and doctors that inject these things into kids across the world every single day. That's why there's so much aggression. That's why there's so much fear. That's why there's so much propaganda across this subject. Because when the facts are there, you let the facts speak for themselves. When they're not there, like we've seen through the fake pandemic, like we've seen through a number of things, climate change being another one, they manipulate the facts. They leave certain facts and certain studies and certain pieces of information out. They only include what suits their narrative, what supports their concept, what supports the sales pitch. And they ignore everything over here. Did you know that on the insert to the MMR vaccine, it lists the side effects and says could include death? Did you know that? Did your doctor tell you that? Did your vaccine nurse tell you that? Well, to anyone listening that doesn't believe me, if you're a aspiring parent, if you're a to-be parent, if you're a parent already, and they want to give your kid one of these MMR jabs, which includes measles, obviously, that's why I'm talking about it, ask them. Ask them for the vaccine insert that the drug companies include in the vaccine. It will list the ingredients and all of those things, and it will also list potential side effects. Did you know that? Is that informed consent? If you didn't know that. Because if you did, would you so blindly say yes? Probably not. And that's why they don't tell you these things. So this story here today just sums up the propaganda that we face daily based on nothing but lies.